So over the past couple of years, between different divisions over at the Walt Disney Company, whether of course it's Walt Disney Animation Studios, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar, etc., they have lost billions of dollars in revenue combined, and there's been a lot of things that Disney CEO Bob Iger has had to confront and address to all the shareholders and the customers alike around the globe. That really just goes to show you how failed, of course, Disney really has become at this point in time, and everything that really has been going on between Bob Iger, the board of directors, the current shakeup happening over there. We'll talk more about that later in the week. Stay tuned. But what's interesting about Bob Iger is that he continues to lie about everything related to Disney's current situation. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Bob Iger that we all pretty much are aware of at this point is that he basically is a flip-flopper. He'll say one thing and then another thing next a couple of months later, such as quieting down the noise when it comes to all of the Disney agendas being forced into everything like Star Wars, Marvel, etc., and then just moving ahead with placing in those agendas again. This is why you can never take his words seriously at any given point in time. However, when it comes to Bob Iger addressing the current financial situation over at Disney and everything else going on, with all the revenue that they had lost over the past couple of years, combined, by the way, throughout all the box office failures, whether it's Marvel, whether it's related to things like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny as another example there, and everything looming, by the way, for 2025. Now, on top of all of this, alright, with Disney CEO Bob Iger already heading into serious damage control after the Walt Disney Company lost billions of dollars over the years from multiple failed projects, Iger recently had much to say to the shareholders and the customers around the globe, where he delivered the following. As CEO, it is my responsibility to address our current financial situation here at the Walt Disney Company as we aim to evolve many of our brands moving forward. I think the biggest problem and challenge right now that we need to address are inaccurate views of Disney's financial status. Now sure, we have invested too much on some projects across many of our brands that we immediately reconsidered. However, our support for diversity, equity, and inclusion had nothing to do with the revenue that we had lost over the years, and I am the one that finds that to be very irresponsible from a small margin of our core customer base. Our loss in revenue, especially for the projects that we came to the conclusion that we invested far too much, it had nothing to do with our support for DEI, nor did this have anything to do with the direction of our stories and characters. However, we found most of this to be related to nothing more than a marketing mishap. So that same small margin that continues to claim that this was a result of a lack of creative vision from our creators of these films and shows and or support for DEI really need to research how we did provide marketing cost cutbacks on those same projects even before we greenlit our cost-cutting measures throughout 2023 and 24. To the many divisions here at Disney, yes, we did lose quite a large amount over the years combined. I think there is no denying that at this point. But to say this came as a result of DEI or how Disney engages in a culture war is just part of a terrible narrative from uninformed individuals that really don't quite know what they are discussing about, why we missed some targets over the years. As CEO, we are thankfully supporting DEI to its greatest length from many things related to Marvel, Star Wars, and even our Disney live-action remakes that we will be happily announcing in the coming months. It is in my best interest to continue supporting DEI in all of our films, television programs, and even how we can incorporate that, rightfully so, into our many theme parks around the globe. But I hold no concern for the future. I think we have a great 2025 year coming up, and that our most recent stock situation was nothing more than a minor speed bump. The revenue lost over the years, as far as I'm concerned, was blown out of proportion and inaccurate, and we are very confident that this misconception will be fixed and better discussed as we converse more with our analysts connected to these productions. Having, of course, and I have nothing more but great faith in our direction with supporting DEI and the many communities that we will begin to represent in a genuine manner with all of our films and television programs that will allow us to reach a wider, more global audience than ever before. Now, again, guys, before I move on to what Bob Iger is spewing here, he does dabble with the whole concept of Disney is not agenda-based, but it is agenda-based, alright? This is typical copy and paste behavior that people like Kathleen Kennedy have done, Leslie Headland, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the director of Star Wars The Rey movie, and even Bob Iger in this sense, alright? The CEO of Disney, alright? The one that's running the entire show here. Well, not exactly. It's really, at the end of the day, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and there's been a lot of things going on with Vanguard lately that I don't trust. I'll talk more about that later. I'm sure that you guys know what I'm talking about. But Bob Iger really just is continuing to lie, saying that this had nothing to do with anything related to the story direction, to DEI, or any of Disney's agenda garbage getting shoehorned into these stories. Yes, it 100% had all to do with that. It was nothing to do with marketing mishaps. You guys notice that he also pulled this little trick also with Star Wars The Last Jedi to a certain degree. Not necessarily about a marketing mishap, but how The Last Jedi did not affect Solo: A Star Wars Story's performance. Well, basically he boiled it down to a frequency issue, that people were too tired of Star Wars even in the early days of the films coming out, which made absolutely no sense. So, interestingly enough, alright, he goes on to conclude, that is our goal, and it's something that I and the board want to establish before the 2026 year, and we are all very confident in how we will be able to establish that in the very near future to all of our shareholders and customers. I can't stress this enough, our support for DEI holds nothing to do with any sort of an agenda, nor does it have any connection to our revenue and targets missed. So again, he goes on to talk about how they've missed these targets, they've missed these box office projections on a massive scale, especially with Indiana Jones 5. And look, a lot of this has to do, by the way, for those of you that do not know, a lot of those films were very high budget movies that really did not have to be such high budget films. Indiana Jones 5 was a major example, and a lot of that had to do with Kathleen Kennedy requesting to film all these extra scenes that just ended up getting deleted and thrown into the trash. And that just goes to show you that there was a lot of wasted material from that film, and it's not just about that. The sets for Indy 5 were so expensive. Alright, even some of the CGI work, very, very expensive. And that's just the beginning of things, alright? Paying Harrison Ford is up there as well. But to make matters worse for Disney's situation now, 2025 is still not looking good. It's all full of DEI, which is never coming from a quote-unquote genuine place, as Bob Iger really kind of tries to elaborate there. But at the end of the day, it's all about Disney's overall agenda, alright? They don't want to provide good stories anymore. They don't want to provide good character development anymore. It's all about just shoehorning in XYZ into these movies. Doesn't matter who's in it, you know, when it takes place, where it takes place, whatever, it doesn't matter. They just want to focus on whatever fits their agenda, and the story is the last thing on their list. So overall, guys, you know, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.